Chapter 2. Step 2 and Step 3. When I looked at Step 2, I despaired. For one, I had no high power, I was an agnostic, and secondly, I couldn't understand what they meant by restore us to sanity, and why was I also to admit I was insane on top of the rest? I mean, I was sober now, right? What was there to be insane about? Now, clearly, I'm doing the steps and then writing about them. I'm currently 3 steps ahead from the step I'm writing, and what I am writing allows me to cement in my head all the stuff and at the same time to kind of make order to things. So when I was exploring step 1 in the previous chapter, I actually documented there stuff that, in reality, I discovered when I approached the concept of insanity for step 2. Kind of a complicated way to simply tell you that there are quite a few beats from the previous chapter that I'm going to revisit here and there, but with the insanity perspective now. If for step 2 I am to pray to have my sanity restored, then I clearly am insane now. But to be honest, I don't really feel insane. Okay, maybe it's another word to go into then. Per Merriam-Webster, there is a general and a legal definition of insanity. Quote, general. A severely disordered state of the mind usually occurring as a specific disorder. Law, unsoundness of mind or lack of the ability to understand that prevents someone from having the mental capacity required by law to enter into a particular relationship, status, or transaction, or that releases someone from criminal or civil responsibility. At this point, I realized that personally, I always thought of insanity as something as restrictive as the legal definition is, whereas the general definition is actually much more broad that needed much more attention. So then I went to Jung. Quote, insanity is possession by an unconscious content that, as such, is not assimilable to consciousness, nor can it be assimilated since the very existence of such contents is denied. Now we found out how, before we recover, we are in Jung's pre-individuation state, where we at least grasp that there is a part of us, the shadow or AA's self-centeredness, that drives behaviors for reasons unknown to us, bringing us through our blank spot. That is AA's mental obsession, compounded by the hyperkatifia and by those damaged neurosystems on their slow way to recovery. Remember, all of these are not one of the possible definitions of what we are experiencing as sober alcoholics. This list is a sum of symptoms. 1. We are in a pre-individuation state, and our ego is not in control. Our shadow is. Plus 2. We suffer from dysphoria and hyperkatifia, which directly feed on our physical state. Plus 3. Life's pleasures are still felt below the threshold we used to feel before we ever started drinking, and we experience it by feeling that there is not enough something in our life. Plus 4. Anything in life stresses us a lot more than it used to before it all started, and we seem not to be able to cope with it that well at all. Okay, when seeing these put like that, of course, it's accurate. I do meet the definition of being insane, and yes, I do need to get out of it. But I wonder, why do I pray to a god of some kind to have my sanity restored? Why cannot I cure it? After all, eventually the physical symptoms will get dull enough to really be comfortable enough to live with, and for the rest, shouldn't the individuation process be enough to restore me to a normal level of sanity? Apparently, the individuation process is a lifelong process, and presumably we can call ourselves individuated on our deathbed or something. And quite clearly, I need this kind of now. I am not sure how popular this makes me, but I thought if I find in Jung some kind of reasoning for a spiritual approach, then it does make sense to use the AA's teaching of believing into a high power as a sort of shortcut to Jung's individuation process. Obviously, this isn't that true at all, but I do believe that the bottom line of the 12 steps is just this. Nothing stops me from continuing throughout my life to work at my individuation. As eager as I was to see what step 2 was, I stumbled upon one of the core messages that Bill left for us to think about once we've done the first step. Around the time in which we're doing step 1, the big book spends some time to prove to us through many examples what some of us do know already through their own experience. Knowing what alcoholism is, the ins and outs, knowing maybe more than what I discovered so far, does not help a sober alcoholic from relapsing into the first drink. This was astonishing for me, and I couldn't believe it. Yet there are two accounts of what happened to two people that the big book describes as examples of the many stories experienced by a lot of people. Bill declares that this danger is real and that he fell into it himself. How the big book describes the downfall of one of these resonates with every alcoholic. Quote, "Upon exiting treatment, his physical and mental condition were unusually good. Above all, he believed he had acquired such a profound knowledge of the inner workings of his mind and its hidden springs that relapse was unthinkable. Nevertheless, he was drunk in a short time. More baffling still, he could give himself no satisfactory explanation for his fall. He's so eager to warn us about this, eager to explain to us that understanding what alcoholism is paramount and necessary. Understanding how powerless we are towards it is essential, but these are only the first stepping stone of the program. Step 1 is the prerequisite. It's there to clean the slate to be able to start our recovery. He really encourages you, quote, "The actual or potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge. This is a point we wish to emphasize and re-emphasize, to smash home upon our alcoholic readers." End quote. Did I want to be that exception? You bet I did. So after a month or so from step 1, I got out of AA and set out on my life as cured. Yep, in hindsight it was quite amazing the fact that it did take a good few months of really controlled, measured drinking. I was keeping notes on paper of how much was I drinking and when, before I gradually but at speed fell into a total relapse, and like me, many others. Let's hope other more trusting and intelligent people will pay heed to the big book's advice. So this is the second time around for me, and this time one of the differences is that I'm documenting my steps here. Are we back to square one then? We're fucked physically and psychologically. We have actually got to admit that we're fucked. And now? AA is a bit blunt on the answer here, and it did throw me off big time the first time around, because it's written so long ago that the way in which thoughts are expressed do not really gel in my mind. But this sentence is unmistakable, and quote, "There is a solution." Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings which the process requires for its successful consummation. And one of the reasons why you read the big book with your sponsor and with other people at an AA meetings is that you get to learn that in this sentence there are described a few of the core steps we need to go through, which will entail again self-searching, leveling of our pride, confessions of our shortcomings. My head is exploding at each of these words, but will expand later. Here I'm focused to see where is the end goal. Those listed seem tools to an end to me, so then what? A little further there is more. Quote, "We believe there is no middle-of-the-road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible, and if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other to accept spiritual help. This we did because we honestly wanted to and were willing to make the effort. So we are here already. Spiritual help." He describes the help received by other alcoholics as receiving the spiritual toolkit to recovery. Bill straightaway declares, quote, "We have had deep and effective spiritual experiences, which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and toward God's universe. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous." End quote. Holy moly, man, we are here already? I'm an agnostic borderline atheist and wasn't ready for this straight-up statement. Closing the book. The first time I was tempted, possibly I actually did it a few times. Then, of course, there is the problem that I'm powerless towards both the allergy and the obsession of alcohol, and that my life is unmanageable. So, if spirituality is the way to go, well, that's where I'm starting to walk towards, who knows. You won't be surprised that I approached even this topic from something as scientific as possible and as clinical as possible. At least I really wanted to start there. Believe it or not, the big book encourages you to do so, and Jung does it also. Back to the story in the big book where the guy relapsed badly because he thought self-knowledge could safeguard him against alcoholism. He asked his doctor if there were exceptions to those incurable chronic alcoholics. And the answer was, quote, "You have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I have never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you. Exceptions to cases such as yours have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. And Jung himself said to Bill in a very famous letter dated 1961 in which he was commenting on a patient, quote, "What I really thought about was the result of many experiences with men of his kind. His craving for alcohol was the equivalent on a low level of the spiritual thirst of our being for wholeness, expressed in medieval language, the union with God." And indeed, Jung mentions a quest for spirituality in many of his writings. One of those, The Modern Man in Search of a Soul, has a preface written with Jung's express agreement by its translator, and in there it's stated that Jung's audience, the people for whom he writes, could be described as people who will not go back to medieval theology dressed up in modern clothes, but who equally refuse to hand themselves over entirely to reason and technology as the new salvation. They want both, the interior life taken seriously and scientific honesty maintained. They are people caught between two insufficient worlds who are searching for a third way. And here I am, someone who can no longer pretend that willpower and reason can be sufficient for my recovery, but who equally cannot simply swallow a prepackaged God and faith, which apparently is perfectly fine in AA. I'm reassured of that from the very beginning of the big book, where already on page 12 two very powerful concepts are stated. We are given the freedom to choose which God to believe in, including making one up. But we are prescribed for this God of our choosing to be a power greater than ourselves. And even before I start tying myself in knots over which God to choose or to make up, with the back of my mind lit up of red alarm flashing bulbs that I might not find one to believe in, let alone truly believe there is a power greater than myself in the first place. Well, even before that panic station, there's a balming, calming, wonderful additional prescription that Bill gives us. We only need to be willing to believe. That is enough. At this point I most certainly want to believe that there is a solution. I most certainly want to believe that the AA program will work. I most certainly want to believe there's something out there that can help me. Because so far I only got that I'm fucked and that I cannot unfuck myself on my own. Plain and simple. The amazing news is that I am not on my own. Bill is transparent in his intention and objective. He wants to help us alcoholics by showing us the way to find our higher power, as that is the solution that he found and that he saw working for other alcoholics. Quote, "That's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem." End quote. Therefore, I'm not on my own because I have around me the fellowship, all the other AA members who are ready and willing to help me, and I have my higher power. Apparently, I have him even before knowing I have him. Here is the essence of where I was at this point. My higher power is there, just patiently waiting to be found. Because this is where I was when I said that I was willing to believe. It's pretty much apparent that I'm not alone in this overall state of mind towards the program, willing to believe, but uncertain on how to go about it all. It is apparent because Bill was once in my same shoes, and he was aware that lots of us were and are, so he wrote a chapter in the BB addressed to us. we agnostics. I have to start from the assumption that you've read it because it is so intense, so exhaustive, so critical that I cannot possibly summarize it here properly. In that chapter, Bill even ventures in a sort of discussion about the existence of God, joining here centuries and millennia of philosophers and theologians and physicists, etc. While there's clearly no comparison, as Bill isn't a philosopher, he makes a very simple, disarming argument that strikes me. He makes many, but this is the major one for me. In the past, science couldn't progress at its natural pace because man and society were anchored in prejudices that closed their minds to progress. Think Galileo, think the Wright brothers. Today, is it not possible that we are not growing spiritually because of opposite but as strong prejudices against spirituality? Moreover, he continues stating how ready we are nowadays to embrace new concepts and new ideas, keeping abreast with the changes in technology, and we embrace new theories and discovery also. And here I'm thinking, going to the moon, atomic energy, the internet, artificial intelligence, etc. So, if we are so ready to change our way of thinking, why cannot we use the same readiness to change also towards the matter of spirituality? After all, there's no prescription. We can get there in whichever way we want. We only know that we're on our way to discover a power greater than ourselves. That's it, actually. This is step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. While this would be the end of the chapter, in practice I am writing for myself to work out everything that allows me to understand. So I'm going to write here how I found my greater power, or my high power, not because you will find yours in the same way, or not because your high power is the same as mine, but because maybe what I'm experiencing may stir in you ideas or feelings for a similar journey of your own. My high power is the great spirit of the universe, and found me in a way I would have thought impossible. It took him quite a long time, and it happened very gradually. I am not sure, actually, I think not, to have yet lived through the spiritual awakening that I'm sure will happen through the end of the program. But I today can say that I know the Great Spirit is with me, and He is every single moment of every single day, and it is really beautiful. The second year after he passed, my late husband Aidan managed to get through to me. Little by little. I was surprised at first, was not sure, it couldn't have been. But instead, Aidan was showing me every day that he was taking care of me. I am talking about really silly things per se, but powerful when I realized it was Aidan's doing. I love cooking, and I usually play it by ear, ending up with too much sauce for the baking tin it should go to, or too little cream to cover the cake, etc. Well, once I let him through, Aidan made me cook with an assurance that I never had, no more sauce wasted, the cakes properly covered, etc. And parking, oh my. I've always been very unlucky at finding a parking spot. All the time unlucky, really. Well, now that I can hear him, Aidan is finding me the perfect parking spot every time I'm in a great hurry or if I'm distressed about something. Easy peasy, unbelievable. After months like this, Aidan started to talk to me more decisively, and I started seeing the gray squirrels in the park. I always called him my squirrel every time I was upset, or when I was missing him terribly, or when it was an amazing day that he wanted to celebrate with me. He even went to the extent to signal his presence to a dear friend of mine, so she kept seeing this Robin all the time and told me it was clearly Aidan, and she never met him in life. The second time I went to AA, it was Aidan, no doubt about that. He also cleared totally the traffic between our house and the meeting room. Once I detoxed and renewed my abstinence and sobriety, I kept feeling Aidan's messages, and they kept influencing my daily life more and more. And the intensity was increasing, so I thought, hang on a second, mister, you're great, but you're not that great. And indeed, Aidan had left room to the Great Spirit to talk to me directly. I'll get there shortly. In the meantime, I remembered that 1,000,000 years ago my first ever boyfriend wrote to me a letter when we were in secondary school, so I searched for it. Found it. It was an American Indian prayer that he had dedicated to me. Why did I think of that letter from him? No idea. That's what I mean by the Great Spirit guiding me and influencing me. This is the prayer he found for me. O Great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty, and make my eyes ever hold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. Help me remain calm and strong in the face of all that comes towards me. Help me find compassion without empathy overwhelming me. I seek strength, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes. So, when life fades as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. 1887, translated by Lakota Sioux. Chief Yellow Lark. I loved it. That's where the Great Spirit found me. I thought that I was to explore Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism, as I did see a lot of overlapping between those perspectives and AA's perspective of the high power that guides our journey. But instead, my high power is the Great Spirit of the Plains. Of course, that was the seed, the beginning. My Great Spirit today in my head is quite different. My Great Spirit is all-encompassing, but not animistically. He does not live in every leaf and every rock. My Great Spirit knows why every leaf and every rock is there, though, where they were and there they will be, and why. My Great Spirit speaks every language. He is inside my mind and knows when I am talking to him or praying to him, even if my lips aren't moving. My Great Spirit has made Aiden his own, and when Aiden reaches out to me, it's the Great Spirit that does that, through Aiden, because he knows I'd be more prone to hear Aiden. That's cool. My Great Spirit is also smart then. So there we were, the Great Spirit and I, properly introduced at last. Step 3 was waiting patiently around the corner. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, as we understood him. Is that a decision I have to make, or did I actually make it already seamlessly? If my Great Spirit is here with me and is indeed so much greater than myself, and if Bill Jung and thousands of alcoholics tell me that it will be my Great Spirit that will give me the solution, will free me from the obsession, will protect me from the blank spot, then of course I am deciding to turn my life to him. By definition, when I know that the Great Spirit exists, I want his help, I want him to guide me, and most of all, I want to hear him and feel him all the time throughout my life, as it is wonderful every time. Doing step 2 and step 3 is the real beginning of the recovery process. But recovery won't happen with a sudden change. It begins gradually. Personally, it has already begun. Indeed, there have been a couple of examples in which, according to my sponsor, I glimpsed at what life is when we become recovered alcoholics. I can still count these examples with one hand only, but even just a single one was miraculous. I was in a sports shop with my dog, but as my dog is afraid of his own shadow, he wouldn't want to go into the lift upstairs where they were selling shoes, so I couldn't go to see what they had. I approached a shop assistant and simply asked him if the wellies were still on sale or not. A simple yes-no question. I explained my dog wouldn't allow me to go upstairs and that I was looking for a size 4. He didn't know, had no means of contacting his colleagues upstairs, but volunteered to go and find out for me. I thanked him and started waiting. And here's the thing, my own usual self would have become increasingly impatient, then angry at the fact the shop assistant took a long time. Indeed, the thought he used the excuse of leaving the floor to start scrolling through his feed on his phone did come to mind. But the incredible thing is that as soon as that thought arrived, I banished it and thought that maybe he was actually busy doing something for me, rather than finding the yes/no answer that I asked. So I calmly, waited for his return. And indeed, he returned brandishing a pair of black wellies size 4 that were on sale for 1/4 of the original price. Amazing. He did more than I was asking. He rooted out the product for me, not just the information. And I was calm. Upon his return, I greeted him with a smile and not a forced one, and with gratitude for the trouble he went to. Obviously, I bought the wellies. No, I actually don't like them, but that's beside the point. I was so happy. I got out of the shop and informed my dog that the Great Spirit made me change, that inspired in me a behavior that wouldn't have been mine before. So deciding to turn my life to my Great Spirit? Absolutely.